In a crowded medieval city where stone walls rise above narrow alleys and market stalls fill the air with smells of bread and sweat, a boy watches from the shadows. He is not yet an assassin, but a street child, quick with his hands and quicker with his eyes. A cloaked man notices him slipping a coin purse from a merchant and says nothing until later, when he follows the boy to his hiding place. The man is a member of a secret brotherhood that has existed for generations, living in the cracks of kingdoms and empires. They do not call themselves assassins, but they accept that word when outsiders whisper it. To them it is simply a craft, a dangerous trade learned through discipline, loyalty, and skill. The boy is taken to a hidden courtyard behind a shuttered house. There he meets others, orphans, runaways, and sometimes children of disgraced nobles, all being trained. His first lessons are not in killing, but in silence, observation, and patience. He is told to memorize every doorway, every rooftop, every escape route. For months, he carries water, sweeps floors, and listens. He learns to read and write coded messages, to copy seals, and to slip past guards without being noticed. Only when he proves his obedience does the training sharpen. Older members teach him how to blend into crowds, disguise his accent, and change his gait. He practices climbing walls with bare hands, crossing beams high above courtyards, and rolling silently when he jumps. The weapons come last. Daggers, short swords, and throwing knives are introduced slowly, alongside lessons in poisons and antidotes. Each tool is taught as an extension of his own body. The instructors repeat that a mission may succeed without a single strike, if the target never knows he was there. Life inside the Brotherhood is strict, but also protective. Meals are plain, rooms are small, and rules are absolute. Breaking them means exile or death. Yet within those walls, the boy finds a new kind of family. He eats with others like him, trains beside them, and swears oaths of secrecy. In time, he begins to see the city not as a maze of dangers, but as a living map he can read and control. The first part of his life as an assassin has begun, not with a murder, but with the discipline of patience, secrecy, and survival. When his basic training ends, the young recruit's world expands. For the first time, he leaves the hidden compound on errands, escorted by older members who test his memory of routes and signals. He is told to watch how guards change at the city gates, to notice which taverns shelter soldiers, and to listen to gossip without being noticed. He learns to use beggars, merchants, and servants as eyes and ears. Information, his mentors tell him, is a weapon sharper than any blade. At night, his lessons grow harsher. He practices moving across rooftops without making tiles slip. He learns to hang from ledges by his fingertips until his muscles shake. He is blindfolded and led through alleys, then told to find his way back by smell and sound alone. He studies dialects and hand signs used by smugglers. He practices holding different postures and facial expressions until even his closest companions do a double take. Weapons training intensifies. His instructor places a wooden dagger in his hand and orders him to strike a hanging bag filled with grain until his arms ache. He is taught to disarm, to choke, to bind, but also to slip past a fight entirely. Poisons are introduced under strict supervision. He grinds herbs, tests powders on meat scraps, and watches how slowly or quickly each one works. He learns to dose not to kill, but to weaken or confuse. The emphasis is on control. Control of self, control of tools, control of timing. Small missions begin. He might be told to infiltrate a banquet and retrieve a sealed letter, or to follow a target through crowded streets without being seen. Failure means punishment, but also more lessons. He discovers that nerves are as dangerous as guards. Calm breathing, a steady pace, and an unremarkable appearance keep him safe more than any weapon. Each mission builds his confidence. Each return to the compound earns a silent nod from his mentors. Life inside the Brotherhood remains disciplined, but now holds hints of purpose. Around the fire at night, older assassins tell stories of campaigns in faraway cities, of kings who never knew who ended their reign, of plots stopped before they began. The young recruit listens, knowing his time will come. He has not yet taken a life, but he feels the weight of the oath he has sworn. He understands that he is part of a hidden network that reaches across borders and decades. The craft is no longer just survival. It is a profession with its own code. One night, his instructor tells him to look at his own reflection in a darkened window. When you are no one, you can be anyone. The boy nods. He feels fear, but also excitement. The second stage of his life has begun, the shift from a student of secrecy to a shadow moving through the world. Learning how to strike without leaving a trace, months pass before the Brotherhood gives the young recruit a mission that carries true risk. It is not yet a killing, but it will put him alone, without escort, in the heart of a hostile quarter. He is to enter a nobleman's townhouse and retrieve a ledger that contains names of spies. The task sounds simple, but he knows the weight of failure. He spends days studying the area, watching servants come and go, mapping the windows and rooftops in his head. He learns the rhythm of guards' footsteps like a song. On the night chosen for the mission, he dresses as a wine porter, carrying an empty cask to the back door. His palms are damp, but his breathing stays steady as he mutters a few words in the dialect he has practiced. A sleepy servant waves him inside without a second glance. Once through the door, he counts the turns to the study, listening for voices. He moves at a normal pace, not a sneaking one. His instructors taught him that fear draws more eyes than confidence. He slides it into his satchel, replaces it with a blank book of the same size, and leaves by a different route. A guard steps into the hall unexpectedly. Without thinking, he bows like a servant and mutters about spilled wine. Heart pounding, the recruit keeps walking until he reaches the alley where an older assassin waits. They disappear into the maze of streets without a word. Back at the compound, the recruit is praised with a single nod. No feast, no applause, only the silent acknowledgement of a task completed. Yet inside, he feels a surge of confidence. He has moved among powerful men, unseen, and taken what they guarded. This, he realizes, is the true test of his craft, to shape events without leaving a trace of himself behind. Days later, his instructor begins teaching him the art of finishing a mission when removal of a target is necessary. But even now, the emphasis is on planning. Killing is the last step, the instructor says. Everything before that is more important. The recruit listens. Feeling the weight of the blade in his hand and the heavier weight of responsibility, he begins to understand the cost. They have survived years of secrecy and violence, but at a price. He notices that many keep to themselves, speaking little except during training. The Brotherhood is not a band of happy outlaws. It is a network bound by silence and sacrifice. Knowing this, he steels himself. Now he has a place, a skill, a purpose, but also a burden. He does not yet know if he will take a life without hesitation when ordered. He only knows that the path he has chosen leads further into shadow. His first real mission has shown him that the work of an assassin is not glory, but discipline. The day finally comes when the young recruit is told his mission will not be a theft or a message, but a removal. The target is a corrupt tax collector who has been bleeding a poor district dry and passing secrets to an enemy lord. The order is given without ceremony. His instructor simply places a small dagger in his hand and says, "It must be done quietly." For hours afterward, he sits alone, staring at the blade. The idea of taking a life, even an enemy's, feels heavier than the steel itself. He spends days watching the tax collector's routine. The man eats in the same tavern at sunset, walks home through a narrow lane, and pauses at a fountain to drink. Guards surround him by day, but not at night. The recruit rehearses every step in his mind. Approach, strike, escape. He checks every route twice. He moves through the lane at different hours to feel its shadows. Each time he practices, his hands tremble a little less. On the chosen night, he dresses as a drunk laborer and leans against the fountain before the tax collector arrives. The man appears, muttering to himself, fumbling with a coin purse. The recruit steps forward, spilling a little wine on the cobblestones, and mutters an apology. In that instant, he slips the blade under the ribs, just as he was taught. The man gasps, slumps, and the recruit catches him, lowering him gently to the ground as if he were helping. Then he vanishes into the maze of alleys without looking back. Back at the compound, he hands the dagger back to his instructor. His face is pale, his eyes hard. No one congratulates him. No one asks how it felt. He washes his hands for a long time, even though there is no blood on them. That night, he cannot sleep. He sees the man's face, hears the gasp, again and again. In the morning, he forces himself to train as usual, running on rooftops until his lungs burn. The instructors say nothing but watch him closely. Days pass. The images in his mind fade, but do not disappear. Something inside him hardens, a wall built around a memory. He learns to live with it, to push it down. The Brotherhood does not encourage cruelty or pleasure in killing. It teaches necessity, discipline, and control. He begins to understand that every strike carries a cost, not just to the victim, but to himself. This awareness, his instructor tells him quietly, is what keeps an assassin from becoming a murderer without conscience. He also notices a change in how others look at him. Apprentices who once trained beside him now treat him with wary respect. Older members include him in more serious discussions. Missions increase in difficulty. He is no longer a boy in training, but an operative of the Brotherhood. Yet he still remembers the weight of that first dagger and knows he will carry it forever. At night, he writes a single line in his casebook. It is not the blade, but the choice that cuts deepest. Then he closes the book, blows out the candle, and prepares for whatever the next mission may bring. He has crossed a line, and there is no going back. The life of a medieval assassin is not a story of glory. It is a path of shadows where each step demands a piece of the soul. Seasons change, and the young assassin grows into his role. He is no longer sent on simple errands. Instead, he is trusted with complex missions that require not only stealth, but planning and leadership. He begins to see the larger web in which the Brotherhood moves. Networks of informants, secret safe houses, hidden messages carried between cities. What once seemed like isolated tasks now looks like a long, patient game of influence and power. He learns that an assassin's real weapon is not the blade, but the ability to shape events. His instructors now speak to him as an equal. They share details about the Brotherhood's code: never kill for personal gain, never harm innocents, never reveal the order. They teach him that each mission must serve a purpose beyond the death of one person. A corrupt official removed may weaken an enemy army. A letter stolen may stop a war. He begins to study maps, treaties, and family lineages, so he understands why he is sent and what ripple his action will cause. This knowledge gives him a sense of control, but also a heavier sense of responsibility. He also starts to train others. A new group of orphans arrives, nervous and thin like he once was. He watches them practice the same exercises he once struggled through. He corrects their footing, shows them how to calm their breath, and quietly warns them that the craft will cost them pieces of their hearts. In teaching, he learns patience and self-control. The Brotherhood believes that every assassin must someday pass on knowledge before moving to higher ranks, and he is beginning that phase. Outside missions, he learns the art of strategy. He sits with older members at long wooden tables covered with tokens representing guards, gates, and patrols. Together, they plan the movement of people through a city, as if moving water through pipes. He becomes adept at timing, diversion, and misdirection. Sometimes a mission succeeds because a lantern is knocked over in the right place, or a rumor is spread at the right time. These are tools as sharp as any knife. His own identity grows thinner. He no longer answers to his birth name. In one city, he is a merchant's clerk. In another, a traveling monk. In another, a mute beggar. Each disguise is a skin he puts on and sheds. At night, alone, he sometimes stares at his reflection and wonders who he really is beneath the layers. Yet there is a strange freedom in being no one. He can move anywhere, be anyone, vanish without trace. He notices, too, that the Brotherhood has its own politics. Senior members debate targets and methods, argue over which cause to serve, or whether to intervene at all. He sees that even among shadows there are disagreements and rivalries. Learning to navigate them becomes part of his training. He must not only master stealth and combat, but also patience, diplomacy, and the reading of hidden motives. As the years pass, his skills sharpen and his reputation grows, though the world beyond the Brotherhood knows nothing of him. He has moved from student to operative to planner. His life is still lived in silence, but now his hand helps guide the silence. He is becoming not just a blade, but a mind in the shadows, shaping history from behind the curtain. The Brotherhood finally sends him beyond the walls of the city where he trained. A sealed order arrives, telling him to travel east to a port town where a rival lord has been gathering mercenaries. He is to learn their numbers, discover their paymaster, and disrupt their plans without drawing attention. It is his first mission in a foreign land. He packs only what he can carry, hides his tools inside bundles of cloth, and joins a caravan as a scribe, so no one will suspect his real purpose. Travel in the Middle Ages is slow and dangerous. He rides in wagons, walks for miles, and sleeps under the open sky. He must watch for bandits and disease as much as enemy spies. Along the way, he studies accents, customs, and coinage. He learns which gestures are polite, which ones offensive. In one village, he helps a healer treat a sick child to gain trust and information. In another, he repairs a broken door for a farmer in exchange for directions. Every kindness is also a cover. Every conversation is also a chance to listen. When he reaches the port town, he rents a small room above a tavern and begins to map the streets. He counts ships, notes their flags, and memorizes which warehouses are locked. He moves between docks dressed as a porter, then as a fisherman, then as a merchant's clerk. At night, he slips into the mercenary camp, studying their weapons and leaders. He bribes a stable boy to tell him who pays for the horses. Piece by piece, a picture forms in his mind of the rival lord's plan. Rather than strike openly, he uses misdirection. He spreads rumors about delayed payments, forges a letter canceling a shipment of weapons, and leaves it where a captain will find it. He poisons a barrel of ale, not to kill, but to sicken a few key men, slowing their preparations. He arranges for a fight between two rival captains over a false accusation. Within a week, the camp is in chaos. Ships leave the harbor, and the threat to his city fades without a single blade drawn. He sends a coded message back to the Brotherhood and waits for confirmation. When it arrives, he burns every note and quietly leaves the town before anyone can connect him to the disruption. The caravan he joins on the return trip never knows who travels among them. He feels a deep satisfaction. This mission has shown him the full power of subtlety, the ability to topple plans without open bloodshed. On the road home, he thinks about the path he has chosen. He has become a ghost moving through other people's lives, touching them without being seen. Sometimes he wonders what his life might have been if he had stayed a street child. But as he rides under a pale dawn sky, he feels the discipline and purpose that his training has given him. He knows he is part of something larger, a hidden current shaping the surface of history. When he returns to the compound, older members listen silently as he gives his report. No applause, only nods. They know that the quietest victories are often the most powerful. The young assassin bows his head, already thinking about the next journey, the next disguise, the next shadowed mission in a world that will never know his name. Years of missions across cities and kingdoms start to leave marks no one else can see. The assassin's body is strong from constant training, but inside he feels the cost of living as a shadow. Nights on cold rooftops, constant disguise, and the knowledge of what he has done weigh on him. He still follows the Brotherhood's code, but he begins to ask himself questions in the silence of his room. Who decides which targets deserve removal? How many lives are changed by each mission? Doubt creeps in like a slow tide. His instructors notice the change. They do not scold him, but give him harder tasks, as if testing his resolve. One mission requires him to protect a merchant carrying secret letters through a war zone. Another orders him to watch a corrupt noble for months without acting, simply gathering information. These assignments teach him patience, but also force him to live among ordinary people for longer stretches. He eats with farmers, sleeps in stables, listens to children's stories by the fire. For brief moments, he feels almost human again. Yet the Brotherhood's rules remain strict. He cannot reveal his identity, cannot form attachments, cannot leave without permission. When a young widow he has been protecting thanks him and offers him a place in her home, he smiles but walks away. That night, he sits alone, staring at the dagger on the table, feeling the weight of the life he cannot have. He has become very good at vanishing from other people's lives, but now he feels the emptiness left behind. On another mission, he is ordered to remove a target whose crime is not clear to him. The man is accused of plotting against the Brotherhood's allies, but the evidence is thin. The assassin hesitates, delays, and watches longer. He discovers the man is guilty but also sees that killing him will leave his children destitute. He completes the mission but leaves money hidden for the family. It is a small act of mercy that breaks no rule but shows how much he has changed. Inside the Brotherhood, politics grow more complex. New leaders rise, some more ruthless than others. He learns to navigate these currents with caution, keeping his doubts to himself while fulfilling his duties. He still believes in the craft, in the discipline and skill, but he no longer sees the world in simple lines of good and evil. He has walked too many alleys, seen too many faces. The life of a medieval assassin, he realizes, is as much about carrying unseen burdens as it is about carrying blades. One night, after returning from a mission, he climbs to the roof of the compound and watches the city below. Lanterns flicker, people laugh in taverns, merchants close their shops. He feels like a ghost looking down at the living. Yet in that moment, he also feels a strange pride. He has kept countless people safe without them knowing. He has stopped wars, prevented betrayals, and saved lives by ending others. This is the paradox he lives with. The shadows can protect as well as harm. He breathes deeply and closes his eyes. He knows he will continue his work, but he also knows he must find a way to hold on to his humanity. Otherwise, he will become nothing more than a tool. In the morning, he will train again, plan again, and step once more into the hidden paths that only assassins know. The toll is real, but so is the purpose. The assassin is no longer the youngest in the compound. New recruits arrive, wide-eyed and uncertain, just as he once was. The elders tell him it is time to pass on what he has learned. At first, he resists. Teaching feels heavier than carrying out missions, but he accepts the duty and finds himself standing before a group of boys and girls, each with their own story of loss and survival. He sees his younger self in their faces and feels both pride and sorrow. He begins with the basics: silence, balance, and patience. He takes them to rooftops at night and makes them move without rattling tiles. He leads them through markets in disguise and orders them to follow him unseen. He trains their eyes to notice small details: a coin purse, a guard's limp, a door left ajar. Some stumble, others adapt quickly. He reminds them that failure is not shameful as long as it becomes a lesson. Slowly, they begin to trust him, and he begins to feel the strange bond of mentor and student. Teaching forces him to put words to instincts he has long carried. He explains how fear must be controlled, how the best weapon is often the one never drawn. He tells them stories of missions without naming names, showing how patience can undo an enemy better than any blade. The recruits listen closely. Some are eager for glory, but he warns them there is no glory in their pathenly shadows, sacrifice, and silence. A few flinch at his honesty, but others grow steadier. He notices the small choices they make. One boy steals food from the kitchen, testing the rules. Instead of punishing him harshly, the assassin makes him serve every meal for a month, teaching him discipline through service. A girl struggles with disguises, always giving herself away with her eyes. He spends hours with her, showing her how to soften her gaze, how to look through people rather than at them. He feels a quiet satisfaction when she finally slips past a guard without notice. But teaching also brings challenges. Some recruits break under pressure and flee. Others prove too reckless and must be expelled. Each loss reminds him that this life is not meant for everyone. The Brotherhood does not force anyone to stay, but those who leave can never return. Watching them walk away stirs something in him, an echo of the choice he never had. He wonders if they are the lucky ones. Outside the compound, he still undertakes missions, but now he brings apprentices to observe. He shows them how to map a city, how to blend into a tavern, how to slip into a noble's hall. They do not strike, they only watch. When they return, he makes them explain every step, every sound, every smell they noticed. He knows that the smallest detail can decide success or failure. By sharpening their eyes and ears, he prepares them for a world that will never forgive mistakes. At night, he sits alone, thinking about the strange circle of his life. Once a boy taught to vanish, now a man teaching others to do the same. He feels older than his years, but also stronger. Passing on his knowledge gives meaning to the weight he carries. If he must live in shadows, at least he can guide others through them. In teaching, he finds a small spark of light. Word spreads through the compound that a mission of unusual weight has been given to the Brotherhood. The elders gather the assassins in silence, their faces grave. The assassin, now a mentor and proven hand, is chosen to lead. He listens carefully as the task is explained. A powerful lord has grown too bold, raising armies and defying the balance of kingdoms. If he continues unchecked, war will consume the land. The mission is not just a contract, it is a turning point. The Brotherhood believes that removing this man will shape the fate of nations. The assassin accepts the task without outward hesitation, but inside he feels the weight press upon him. He knows this mission will not be like the others. It will require more than slipping past guards or cutting a single throat. This target is surrounded by soldiers, spies, and loyal servants. To reach him will demand patience, cunning, and sacrifice. The elders allow him to choose 2 apprentices to accompany him. He sees the fear and eagerness in his students' eyes, but he knows this trial will shape them as much as it will test him. The journey is long, taking them across rivers, forests, and towns that whisper with rumors of the Lord's growing power. The assassin moves cautiously, watching every face in the crowd, every banner on the road. At night, he speaks quietly with his apprentices, teaching them to read maps by starlight and to sense danger in silence. They grow weary, but he pushes them onward, reminding them that their strength lies not in speed, but in patience. When they arrive in the city, the challenge becomes clear. The Lord has fortified his keep with walls, guards, and watchtowers. No servant enters without inspection, no visitor leaves without notice. The assassin studies the gates for days, noting every patrol, every shift of the guards. He observes the kitchens, the stables, the halls where merchants gather. His apprentices grow restless, wanting action, but he forces them to wait. He tells them that haste is the weapon of fools, and they must move only when certainty is in their favor. Through disguise, he enters the city as a tradesman, carrying goods from the countryside. His apprentices follow as servants. They learn to bow low, to speak little, to listen more. Inside the walls, the assassin sees the truth of the Lord's rule. The people are fearful, taxed beyond reason, and soldiers take what they wish. The apprentices whisper that perhaps the target deserves his fate. The assassin does not answer. Justice is not his to decide, only the task. After weeks of watching, he discovers a weakness. The Lord visits a private chapel each night, guarded by only a few men, seeking forgiveness for the blood he spills by day. It is here the assassin plans to strike. But he knows the chapel is sacred, and the act will not only end a man, but stir outrage. The choice weighs heavily on him. He explains to his apprentices that the Brotherhood's duty is not to comfort the world, but to keep balance. Some will curse them, others will never know their names, yet the work must be done. The night comes. Cloaked in silence, they approach the chapel. The apprentices hold their breath as the assassin moves like a shadow through the guards. A silent blade, a final prayer, and the Lord falls without a sound. The mission is complete, but the assassin feels no triumph, only the cold knowledge that kingdoms will shift because of his hand. As they vanish into the night, he looks at his apprentices. Their eyes are wide, their innocence dimmed. He knows they have crossed a threshold from which there is no return. They leave the city before dawn, slipping through gates disguised as traveling merchants. The apprentices keep their heads down, clutching their packs as if they are ordinary traders. Only the assassin walks with steady steps, yet inside he feels the tremor of change. He has ended lives before, but never one that carried so much weight. This time, the blade has cut into the fabric of kingdoms. He wonders what will follow in the wake of his act. For days they travel in silence. The apprentices whisper to each other at night, but their eyes are heavy. The younger one finally speaks, asking if the people will be free now that the Lord is gone. The assassin does not answer right away. He pokes at the fire with a stick, watching sparks rise into the dark. He tells them that power never stays empty for long. Someone will fill the Lord's seat, maybe worse than before, maybe better. Their work is to cut the rot when it spreads too far, not to decide who grows after. His words hang in the air like smoke. As they near the Brotherhood's compound, they find villages buzzing with rumor. The Lord's death has already reached the countryside. Some rejoice, some are frightened. Merchants gossip of new taxes, soldiers mutter of rebellion, priests call it an unholy act. The apprentices hear their work spoken of as both miracle and crime. They look at their teacher with new eyes, as if he carries the power of kings. He feels their gaze and tells them quietly that he is only a man with a skill, nothing more. When they arrive, the elders receive them in the Hall of Shadows. They listen to his report without expression. The assassin lays out every step of the mission, every detail of their movements, every choice he made. He does not hide his doubts. The elders nod, neither praising nor condemning. They remind him that their work is like the tide, shaping the shore without asking permission. Then they dismiss him. His apprentices are taken aside for further instruction. He walks out into the courtyard feeling both lighter and heavier. In the weeks that follow, news flows in like a flood. The city he left behind trembles with change. Rival nobles fight for control, mercenaries march, priests preach vengeance. The assassin reads the reports with a still face. He knows each line is tied to the blade he carried. He also knows he may be sent again to the same place, this time to remove someone who rose from the chaos he helped create. This is the cycle he teaches. No end, only balance, shifting from one hand to another. At night, he trains alone on the rooftops. The weight of years settles on his shoulders. He has killed men who deserved it, and men who did not, and sometimes he cannot tell which was which. He sharpens his knife not just to keep it ready, but to keep his own edge from dulling. Yet there is a small part of him that still believes in the Brotherhood's purpose. He thinks of the apprentices. If they can learn patience and discipline, maybe they will carry the work with cleaner hearts than Hazes. One evening, as the sun sets red behind the hills, an elder approaches him. There is talk of unrest far to the south, of a prince who may plunge a kingdom into war. The Brotherhood will act again. But this time, the elder says they want him to lead, not as a blade, but as a guide. He will oversee missions, shape strategies, and train the next generation. The assassin bows his head. The path he walks is changing. Perhaps this is how an assassin grows old, not by putting down the blade, but by teaching others how to carry it. The assassin accepts the elder's decision with little outward reaction, but inside he feels uneasy. For years his life has been the same rhythm train: observe, strike, vanish. Now the rhythm is changing. He is no longer just a blade. He is being asked to shape the very hands that will hold blades after him. That weight feels heavier than any mission, yet he cannot refuse. The Brotherhood has given him purpose since the day he arrived as a frightened boy, and now it demands a new kind of loyalty. His first task is to design the training for a fresh wave of recruits. They arrive from distant villages, orphaned by war, cast out by families, or drawn by the rumors of the Brotherhood's secret power. Some look tough, scarred by hardship, while others look too young, too small, too afraid. The assassin studies each face and knows that most will not last. He does not feel cruelty at the thought, only truth. This life demands more than skill. It demands endurance of the spirit. He begins their training with silence. For a week, no one speaks. They eat, work, and sleep in quiet. Some squirm, others break, but a few begin to understand. Silence sharpens the senses. A recruit who cannot bear silence cannot bear the shadows. Then comes balance. He forces them to walk narrow beams, to climb ropes in the dark, to hold still in freezing rain. He teaches them that the body is not just a tool, but a servant that must obey the mind. At night, he tells stories by the fire, not of glory, but of mistakes. He tells them how he once slipped on wet stone, how a careless glance nearly revealed him, how fear almost froze his hand. He does not hide his failures, because failure is the truest teacher. The recruits listen closely. Some grow thoughtful, others restless, but all of them begin to see that the life they dream of is not built on legends, but on pain and patience. The assassin also teaches strategy. He lays out maps on wooden tables, asking them to plan routes through towns, to predict guard patrols, to choose disguises. He makes them argue their choices, then tears their plans apart to show the flaws. He does not do this to humiliate them, but to force them to see that arrogance kills faster than any sword. Slowly, they learn to question themselves, to notice details they once ignored. As the weeks pass, some recruits falter. One runs away in the night. Another breaks his leg during training and must be sent home. The assassin feels no joy in their leaving, but neither does he grieve. The Brotherhood is not for everyone. Those who remain grow stronger, quieter, sharper. He sees them change as he once changed, and in their eyes he sees the reflection of his younger self. It stirs a feeling he has not known in years' hope. Yet even as he trains them, the outside world presses in. Messengers arrive with news of unrest, of kings feuding, and rebels rising. The Brotherhood's work does not pause, and the elders remind him that these recruits are being shaped for missions they cannot yet imagine. Some will not live long enough to grow old. He knows this truth and does not hide it from them. One night, he tells them plainly, "This life is not about surviving. It is about serving. If you wish to live for yourself, leave now. If you stay, you live for balance. None leave. Their silence is their vow." When he lies awake in his chamber, he wonders if he is saving them or condemning them. Yet when he rises at dawn and sees them waiting for instruction, their eyes steady, their bodies scarred but unbroken, he feels a quiet resolve. Perhaps this is the only legacy he can leave, not his own name, which history will never remember, but the discipline and patience carried in those who walk the path after him. The time comes to test the recruits outside the safety of the compound. The assassin watches them in the courtyard at dawn, their faces pale but determined. For months they have trained under his eye. They have learned to move without sound, to blend with crowds, to think like hunters. But training is only a shadow of the real world. Now they must step into the light of danger and see if their skills hold. The elders assign small missions meant not to kill, but to observe. The first is in a nearby town. Merchants are being extorted by a band of guards, and the Brotherhood wants information about who commands them. The assassin leads the recruits as a silent guide. He does not wear his usual dark cloak, but travels like an ordinary man, showing them how disguise is more than clothing. It is posture, voice, the way a person breathes. They arrive at the town at midday, blending into the crowd. The assassin points out details as they walk: the position of guards, the routes of escape, the sounds of unrest. He splits the recruits into pairs, giving each a different corner of the market to watch. Their task is simple but difficult: see everything and be seen by no one. Some slip easily into the crowd. Others fumble, glancing too much, moving too stiffly. He corrects them with a gesture or a quiet word, never drawing attention. At night, they return to a rented room above a tavern. One by one, they report what they saw. The assassin listens without interrupting, then asks sharp questions. Did they notice the merchant with the false coin? Did they see the hidden dagger under a guard's cloak? Did they hear the coded phrases exchanged near the well? Many did not. He does not scold them, but he makes them realize how much they missed. He tells them the world hides its truths under noise and distraction, and an assassin must cut through both. The next day he raises the challenge. They must follow a target without being noticed. The man is a minor official, connected to the extortion. The recruits take turns shadowing him through streets, markets, and alleys. One loses him at a corner. Another stumbles and draws a guard's glance. The assassin demonstrates how to blend, how to mirror the target's pace, how to look like nothing at all. By evening, the recruits are sweating, but their movements are smoother, their eyes sharper. On the third night, he gives them their final test. Entry: they must slip into the official's home after dark and retrieve a sealed letter from his desk without harming anyone. They prepare carefully, drawing maps, timing patrols, practicing locks. The assassin watches, offering only small hints. When the night comes, they move like shadows. The task is not flawless. One nearly knocks over a lamp, but they succeed. The letter is in their hands before dawn, and no one knows they were there. Back at the compound, the assassin reports their success to the elders. He does not boast, but he feels a flicker of pride. The recruits have taken their first step into the real work. They have seen fear and kept moving. They have learned that skill is not enough. Control is everything. The elders nod and say the Brotherhood will soon trust them with greater missions. The assassin looks at his students and sees in their eyes a mixture of exhaustion, excitement, and the quiet fire he once carried. He knows the path ahead will harden them further, but for now he allows himself a rare moment of satisfaction. The assassin begins to notice a change in the air of the compound. The recruits are sharper now, more confident, but with confidence comes pride. He watches them sparring in the courtyard and sees how some glance at him with admiration, while others look at him with quiet challenge. This is the danger he always warned them about. Skill without discipline breeds arrogance, and arrogance can kill more than one life at a time. One evening, a messenger slips him a folded note. It is written in a hurried hand, unsigned, but the message is clear. Someone among the new recruits has been speaking to outsiders about the Brotherhood. The assassin's chest tightens as he reads. In all his years he has seen traitors caught and punished, but he has never been responsible for finding one among his own students. He folds the paper and burns it in the lamp flame. No one must know except the elders. He begins to watch more closely. In training, he sets small traps, false rumors, misplaced coins, secret marks, to see who notices, who reacts. Most remain steady, but one boy, quick with a knife and quicker with a smile, begins to show small cracks. He asks too many questions about missions. He lingers near the gates at night. He grows sharper at disguises, but slower at discipline. The assassin says nothing at first. He only observes, gathering threads. Weeks pass, and the tension grows. The assassin feels the eyes of the elders on him, waiting for him to resolve the matter. At night, he walks the walls of the compound, remembering when he himself was a boy with questions and secrets. He knows that not every traitor begins as a villain. Some are simply lost, or desperate, or deceived. But he also knows the Brotherhood cannot survive betrayal. Shadows exist only because their secrets are kept. Finally, he sets the test. He tells the recruits they will carry out another small mission, a simple delivery to a contact in a nearby town. He assigns tasks and watches how they react. The boy's hands tremble slightly as he takes the sealed pouch. His eyes flicker with something like excitement. The assassin sends them out in pairs but follows quietly, moving over rooftops like a ghost. He sees the boy break away, slip into an alley, and pass a second pouch to a man waiting in the dark. The assassin drops into the alley without a sound. The man flees, but the boy freezes. In the dim light, the assassin sees his fear, his youth, and the small dagger clutched in his hand. He speaks softly, asking why. The boy stammers that he was promised freedom, money, a life outside the shadows. He did not mean to harm anyone. The assassin listens but does not soften. He knows promises like that never end well. He takes the dagger from the boy's hand and tells him that the Brotherhood cannot allow betrayal. The boy bows his head and does not resist. Back at the compound, the elders take the boy away. His fate is decided in silence. The recruits whisper, their faces pale. The assassin says nothing to them. He returns to his chamber and sits in the dark, feeling the weight of what he has done. He has protected the Brotherhood, but at a cost he cannot name. He wonders if this is how the elders once felt about him, a boy with potential walking a thin line between loyalty and despair. He sharpens his knife in the dark and tells himself the truth he teaches others. In shadows, there is no room for illusions. The elders summon the assassin to the hall. Their faces are lined with worry, though they do not show it openly. A king to the east has begun hunting their order, sending spies and soldiers to burn out every trace of the Brotherhood. They will strike at the king himself, not with an army, but with a single invisible hand. They ask the assassin to lead this mission. He bows and accepts, though his heart is heavy. He has trained others for years, but now he must again become the blade. He will not risk their lives for a task so dangerous. But the recruits, hardened by training and field tests, insist on following him. He studies their faces, eyes steady, jaws set. He remembers their first day, trembling and silent. They are no longer children. In the end, he chooses 2 of his best, knowing they may never return. They move through snowbound villages, keeping to forest paths and hidden roads. The assassin watches his companions closely, correcting their steps, teaching even now. The recruits say little, but their faces grow harder with every mile. When they reach the capital, it is like a fortress made of stone and gold. The king hides behind layers of walls, guards, and loyal nobles. They pose as merchants, beggars, even priests, gathering scraps of information. At night, they whisper plans in an abandoned cellar. Every day brings new dangers. Finally, the assassin finds a path. The king attends a midnight council in a secluded tower once a week. The guards are fewer there, and the servants who attend him are trusted but complacent. The plan is simple but perilous. Infiltrate the tower, end the king's life, and vanish before dawn. He feels a strange pride watching them slip through patrols like shadows. The night comes, snow falls silently as they cross the rooftops. The city below sleeps, unaware of the knives above. They scale the tower and slip inside through a window. The air smells of wax and cold iron. The king's voice drifts from the chamber beyond, low and commanding. The assassin signals his companions to wait. This is his burden. He steps into the room, his blade a flicker of moonlight. There is a heartbeat of silence before history shifts. The blade strikes true. The king falls without a sound. The assassin stands over him, feeling no triumph, only a deep, cold stillness. He signals the recruits and they vanish into the night. The city sleeps on, unaware that its ruler is gone. Snow covers their tracks as they disappear into the dark. He does not know what dawn will bring, chaos, vengeance, or a fragile peace. Only that the Brotherhood has acted as they run across the rooftops. He glances back once at the tower and feels the weight of every shadow he has ever walked. They travel through the night, moving faster than the snow that tries to cover their footprints. Behind them, the king's city begins to stir. Bells toll at dawn. Orders are shouted. Torches flare along the walls. The assassin knows that soldiers will soon be everywhere, hunting the invisible hand that cut the throne. Yet he feels no rush of fear. He has accepted the cost of this life long ago. Now he must guide his companions home. For days they avoid roads, crossing frozen streams, and sleeping in barns or caves. The recruits do not complain. They have seen what the work truly means and walk with quiet discipline. At night, they ask him what will happen to the kingdom. He answers as he always has. Balance will shift, another ruler will rise, and the Brotherhood will watch from the shadows. He tells them not to hope for gratitude or justice. Their work is not for praise, but to keep the scale from tipping into chaos. They listen without argument. They understand now. When they reach the compound, the elders meet them in silence. The assassin gives his report, each detail spoken plainly. The elders listen and nod. There are no celebrations, no rewards. Only the simple acknowledgement that the task is done and the Brotherhood endures. The recruits are sent to rest, but he is asked to stay. The elders tell him that his service is complete. He has given the Brotherhood more than most ever do. They offer him a choice: continue leading and training, or step back into the quiet life of a man who has earned his rest. That night he walks the courtyard alone, as he did so many years before as a boy. The stones are cold under his boots, the air sharp with winter. He thinks of the missions, the faces of those who trained him, the students he trained, the boy who betrayed them, the kings who fell under his blade. He thinks of the two recruits sleeping now, alive because he taught them well. He wonders what they will become, what choices they will make when they stand where he stands tonight. In the morning, he gives his answer. He will not take another blade. He will stay to teach, but only to guide. The Brotherhood has many hands. It will always need eyes and minds. He will pass on what he has learned, the lessons hidden between shadows and steel, so that those who come after him may walk with clearer hearts. The elders accept his decision with a nod. There is no ceremony. There never is. As days turn into months, the assassin becomes a quiet presence in the training halls. He moves among the recruits like a ghost, correcting a stance here, a thought there. He still rises before dawn to train alone, but now his knife is mostly for practice, not for killing. The apprentices call him master in whispers, but he does not answer to the title. He simply watches, teaches, and remembers. Sometimes at night he sits by the fire and tells a story not of himself, but of some nameless figure in the shadows. The recruits listen, not knowing they are hearing his own life disguised in another's tale. Years later, a new group of recruits arrives, eyes wide and uncertain. The assassin sees his younger self in them. He feels the weight of time, but also a strange lightness. He has survived where few do, not because he was the strongest blade, but because he learned patience, discipline, and when to let go. As he watches the young ones begin their first silent drills, he knows the Brotherhood will endure. His own name will fade, as all names do in shadow, but the craft and the balance will remain. In this, he finds peace.